highways, electric rain. John teaches Sean about his brain.
Hi, John. It's good to see you.
It's great seeing you, Sean. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. What is on your mind this week?
Neural replay. There's a
Hmm.
article that I read about neural replay, how the brain replays events to store for memories. And it was in an article. It just came out in Nature. Um, the title is, I think, How the Brain Replays and Compresses Memories. And it's by Michael Yartsev and colleagues. They're out of UC Berkeley. And a while back, it was discovered what's called place cells in the hippocampus. And there are certain neurons that will fire when you're in a specific place, located in a specific place. And so a lot of the first research was conducted on rats and with like arm mazes where they have radial arms and then rats go down different parts of the arms looking for food. And so they found that there are these certain neurons that will only fire when they're on one of the radial arms at a certain distance. And it fires every time the rat goes by that, like hits that spot. And then another cell will fire when it's like at the end of that arm. So it helps create a spatial map, like a mental spatial map. And so there have been,
So that's location based, though. You're
it's
saying
location
they
based.
can
So
prove that
yeah, and the place cell is like PLACE, like a place, a
place.
location
Oh, okay.
place, like
Okay.
your home place.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
these are place cells, and usually researchers were only able to record like uh, one neuron at a time. And with rats, like if you're in a cage, you can do a few more. But in Berkeley, they had bats, and they were wanting to test this in bats, and they came up with a way to connect to hundreds of neurons in the hippocampus, to place cells in the hippocampus all at once and leave that device connected and then let the bats fly around and do whatever they're doing. And then it sends a signal remotely to a computer that records all of it. And so this is the first time this has been done, which is why it's kind of an exciting study. And they found out some really cool things. So with rats, when place cells will fire at certain points, they notice that during their rest time, that randomly these place cells would fire again, and kind of in a similar sequence, but it was hard to trace it. They also found that sometimes one of these place cells would fire before they went down the radial, like when they were getting ready to run this maze, the place cells would fire randomly, and so kind of as a way to prepare for like creating the mental map in their mind, like where I'm going to go and where the food might be, type of thing, is the way it was interpreted. But they
Mm-hmm.
found out while they're moving that these place cells start oscillating on theta waves, which is in with an EEG, it's measuring spikes over time, and then start to create rhythms. And these rhythms can be alpha waves, beta waves. So these theta wave oscillations start when they're looking ahead on what they're going to do next. So the researchers knew this, and then when they went into it with the bats, they found out some really cool things when they're connected to a lot of different electro and also a lot of different place cells. Also, bats nap every little bit, like they'll just fall asleep for a little bit and wake back up and fall asleep. So they had a lot more opportunities to look at this. And when they would go through sleeping times, just like we always say that memories are consolidated during sleep, it
Sure.
seemed that
Yeah.
that's what would
Yeah.
happen. These bats would take a certain route that they would video. So they had videos of the route the bat would take. They had a recording of the bat's place cells firing throughout the route. And then they had them when they're sleeping, the firing going along that same route. And instead of things kind of syncing up to theta waves, they would sync up to their wing beats. So it was wing beats that they would sync to, which is really
Hmm.
interesting. But here's where I think is even a more interesting part of this. They found out that during their sleep, they would create a kind of like a packet of their last flight that they took. and that packet was a specific length no matter how far they flew. So let's just say, and I don't know, the article didn't specifically say, they kind of hinted at some different things, but let's just say for our discussion that the packet is 10 seconds long, then it didn't matter if they flew, 30 yards down and back, it would be 10 seconds, or if they flew 60 yards down and back, it was still 10-second packet. So it would condense this whole flight into a shorter packet to meet the 10-second framework, which the researchers were saying that is actually really exciting, because we know that systems usually take standardized inputs. So this is almost like the brain's memory system is taking a standardized input. It's taking these 10-second packets or whatever they are, but it's taking this fixed length of a packet, and that's what it's recording as memories for them to look back on later. So I was just thinking about that, about some of my memories, that something that happened to, over a long period of time, like during the day, like an event or something that took a while. I'm remembering a few of the highlights, but they're all condensed and pushed together. I don't remember the long pauses between them. And sometimes I even forget which sections between the main points I'm thinking about took the longest. I don't know. It's just kind of, it's all smashed together because I remember those main points. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. So going back to the bats part of it is interesting. Well, there are a couple of things, but when you talk about like whether it's 10, no matter what the timing is, no matter how far the flight goes, it's got to fit in that, whatever the 10-second package. And then going back to what you said is like there's an event that lasted for hours that you go through, and like you said, the highlights, or however you want to describe it, you only remember like all of that and not the little things in between. And go ahead.
Well, so it made me also think of some research that we've done and that you've helped with Preflex. And one of the exercises we have that police officers or whoever's using the training system, one of the exercises is called Recall It All. And it just is teaching them to break up an event into small chunks and then label each chunk and then tell a little bit of information about each chunk. And then we have we have research results to show that participants remember like tons more information. Like it's crazy how much more they remember. But then we have like some anecdotal real life events. You remember the deputy sheriff in Pennsylvania who was in a hospital when they got a call that there's an emergency in that room with other people, and he had Preflex training and the other officers hadn't. And their recall of this extended event was like a page long. And his recall, he said, I was breaking this into chunks as I went. So going from where I was to the elevator on the fourth floor or whatever to go down to the second floor, that was a chunk. In the elevator was another chunk where I was thinking about different things. Then when I got off the elevator, that was a chunk. So I was thinking about it as he's now creating these packets of information for each chunk that he's remembering, rather than having that whole event condensed down to one packet. He now has multiple packets of the event, which is why his recall was he said that since there were multiple agencies involved, the state police came in and were writing the report up, and the officer told him, tell me everything you remember about this event. He said, I just started going through each location I was and telling. He said at one point he looked up at me and said, is all of this stuff you're telling me important? He said, well, I mean, you told me to tell you everything I remember. These are everything I remember.
It's important to me.
It's important. So he said it was like 12 pages, I think, that he came up with, and everybody else is like 3/4 of a page or whatever. It's just, and it's, I think now this makes sense that he was chunking those as separate events. So then his sleep cycle was putting them in small packets, which would help with memory. So I thought it was interesting how the brain replays and compresses memories was the name of the study.
Well, and yeah, but then I'm going back to the police officer example, but the depth and the detail of the recall is what, so again, like the kind of general, and this is very general, but I was on the fourth floor. This call came out on the radio. I took the elevator down to the first floor. Suspect, blah blah blah. And but the officer you're describing is like, I was on the fourth floor. I was near the ICU. Whatever all of these details and depth that you can add to the recall by using, we don't call them packets, but of chunking this information together. I think through research, we've been able to prove that we can improve recall of events and details, which details matter in a police report, right? Like, they're very important. So
just these huge differences.
That's interesting.
And so we knew that we know that chunking works, and it wasn't us that figured that out. I mean, it's research has shown that if you chunk information, you remember it better. We were just creating exercises to get people in the habit where you can chunk things without having to stop and think, I need to chunk this. But then, so chunking works, but then to see how it works and to learn about the place cells in the hippocampus, and then learning how they put things in predefined packet lengths and, condense things down. I love when things fall in line like that, where you can understand what you've been doing or what you've been seeing. There's a good explanation for it.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, that's really interesting. I want to just change. I have something on my mind this week.
Okay, let's hear
it. That's not really one of the categories on this podcast, but we've talked a little bit about social media. We've talked about social media's effect on mental health, and then also algorithms. This is a little outside of that, but it's in the same vein, because I feel like, I'm on a personal level tried to get off social media, and I did okay. And then this podcast, and then through for work, there's just some other times that I'm forced to go on social media.
Yeah.
And it feels like, to me, and I don't know that I'm alone in this, but it feels like every time I'm on social media, the world is on fire. Everyone hates everyone. The world is end. This just doom and gloom everywhere. Everywhere I look on social media, and then I leave the house, go get coffee, go to lunch, go to the mall. I don't care where you go, and that doesn't seem to be my reality. I don't think it's geographical. I think that you go out and you talk to people, and it's like, good morning, hey, how you doing? Or what? Excuse me, open the door. I go out in the real world, and it just doesn't seem to mirror that what I'm seeing online and in social media. And why this sparked this morning, I was doing John's job. I was reading some research.
Good. I love that.
But the research was about the actual percentage of people on social media. So if you want to talk about Facebook, Reddit, X, or whatever it's called now, all of these different platforms, it's all very similar, that 97% of the toxicity is what they call it, but of the toxic, and what I'm missing, it's toxic, but also misinformation. It was like 97% of that was done 97% of that information was done by a very small group of people. Now, they were referred to there as super users. And I don't know what qualifies someone as a super user, but when I read the research and what they were talking about, I was like, that makes sense to me, that it's a very small group of individuals who are spreading hate and discontent online. And I'll take it back to how I started this. The algorithms, this is where Facebook and X and the others are guilty, in my opinion, is they have these algorithms where that stuff goes to the top. So if it's, if it'll get, reactions, clicks, if it'll get any of that, the algorithm pushes it to everybody. And so that's what we're actually seeing, but that doesn't represent real life.
You're right.
And so what it got me thinking about was these, not only the super users, but people who are online and behaving a certain way or saying certain things to get clicks, likes, whatever. I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to talk to you about is this idea of my digital identity,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I'm online
Mm-hmm.
and saying and doing things that I would like to believe normally you probably wouldn't do in real life in the
Yes.
beginning,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So I'll pause there because I've said a lot. I just want to get your thoughts on the direction that I'm going,
Yeah.
taking this conversation.
Well, so there's something called the online disinhibition effect.
What?
So inhibition means I'm going to be reserved and I'm going to be careful what I say or how I act right now.
Okay.
So it's disinhibition. It's the opposite. So there's an online disinhibition effect where people just behave like more freely and even inappropriately. In fact, usually inappropriately. And they don't care because they're online. And so they kind of have this persona that I'm going to, I'm, I'm not going to try to inhibit my whatever I'm thinking to do. I'm just going to be as crass or as rude or as shocking as I can be because that gets more likes and that gets people looking at my channel and that type of thing.
Exactly.
There's also sometimes role playing where people will get online and try to become this other kind of persona so that they can get likes. So they're, one is just, I'm just going to, my base instincts, whatever's raw, and I'm just going to be as crude and crass as I can. That's disinhibition. But then there's this other one, I'm going to try to be something different so I can get more likes. And that's role playing. And those are both kind of on channel effects because you're making the conscious decision to do those things. I know like disinhibition effect, there are times when just, the back channel starts throwing up things and instead of watching that and regulating it and redirecting things that are inappropriate. It's like, no, we're spitting everything out. So the information might be coming from the back channel, but there's a conscious choice to just, just to be crass and rude. But there's also this other part of it, which you mentioned, the digital identity. That's more about how people see themselves in social media. And that's a really interesting part of the whole social media thing that I think gets overlooked a lot. And so it's my perception of myself, of my selfhood online, and then it butts up against. So it's I should just say that includes, your digital identity includes your traits and behaviors that are online, the person you present yourself as online, and this can be in social media, obviously, like Instagram, TikTok, X, but it's also in gaming. It's a big thing. Your digital identity is really big in gaming. When you're playing online games with other users and you all join into a game, in forums and chat rooms, even emails, you can take on a digital identity. And so it's something that psychologists are starting to study more right now, but it can be really, I don't know, it's interesting because a lot of it is back channel instead of on channel. Like you can start changing your behaviors offline based on your avatar or your behaviors online.
So yeah, a couple things here, where to start? So there's several different reasons that a person might create a digital identity, but really that maybe that's not true. The crux of it is that they're trying to get likes or views or whatever. So that's the end game, and right?
Yeah, but I mean, yes, but there can be reasons to create specific personas because maybe on LinkedIn, you know that you have to have these certain characteristics and traits because it's on the business side and I've got to present myself as more, but then I don't want to always be that person. So I'll go over on TikTok and I'll create a username that nobody will tie to me or my whatever, and I'll put an avatar face on it. And now I can be playful and fun or whatever. Or now I'm going in this game and I have this certain avatar and I just have my handle. I don't have my picture or my name attached to it in any way. And now it's just I become this avatar. And so that, but you might choose something different for like LinkedIn, for example, or your emails. So you can have multiple digital identities, I think was the only thing I was going to add to what you were saying.
Okay. So yeah, so a different platform, I can behave differently based on the platform. Like you had a
Mm-hmm.
great example of LinkedIn, which is Facebook for companies.
Mm-hmm.
I still stand by that comment, but it is more professional.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that I'm going to post on there, because LinkedIn, even though I'm not very good with it, it does have my name and where I work and what
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I do.
so there's a little bit less, right? Like I can't hide behind that as much.
Right.
But then you start to go down to, I'm on X and I can create user 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 with a fake picture, and I can go on there and
Say whatever you want.
say what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, I'll admit to the 25 listeners or whatever we have, but I only play one video game. Not that it matters, but I play NBA 2K, whatever the version is. Right now, it's NBA 2K25, and there's a lot of different game modes on there. But I generally play offline by myself, and I've created, Sean Hendrickson in the NBA, and I'm just trying to be in the NBA. That's it. But the game, 2K, they know how to get you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so they do these promotions or these things where you, in order to get this thing, you have to play online, and that
Mm-hmm.
means playing
Yeah.
with other people. And I dread going online with other people because, again, if this was my only view of humanity, was playing online against other players in 2K at basketball, if I was an alien, I would nuke this planet because these people are horrible to me, and they're horrible to each other. And
Yeah.
it seems listen, we're all playing the same game. We obviously, well, I mean, I enjoy it. I like playing the basketball game. I like, and then we get on, and there are people on this thing that say the most horrific things to other people, usually to me. Um, but again, there we don't are. I don't know who these people are. Our real names are not on there. You can't find them. We
Mm-hmm.
all have these handles or whatever and these avatars, and so you can hide behind this veil of anonymity
Yeah.
where you can say horrific things. And I feel like, and this is, man, I feel like old man Sean's going to come out a lot in this episode, but I can't help but feel like most of the people who are doing this online, if we were out in public and it was another person and me, they would never say these things to me.
Oh no, 100%.
Right?
Yes.
Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? Listen,
Yes.
I'm not trying to be like a tough guy or anything, but I'm a larger statured human being who's in pretty decent shape.
Yeah.
And you look at me, and I don't know that they would be saying some of the things to me at the mall
No.
that they're saying to me behind this video game console. And I think the same thing goes for social media,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is like there's things that people say, and not only for, I'm not saying I'm going to get in physical confrontations with anyone. I just mean not even the fear of a physical confrontation, but you've talked about previously about social standing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
social
Survival.
situations,
Mm-hmm.
right? So social survival.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're out in public, I would argue that a majority, I can't put a number on it, of these people who are posting horrific things online would not say these things if we were in a social situation. for a
No.
variety of reasons, whatever the reasons are.
Mm-hmm.
But they feel comfortable saying it on social media or behind some kind of,
Yeah,
cloak.
the sad thing is, though, the more they say it on social media, the more likely they are to start exhibiting some of that out in public,
This is where I wanted to get to.
which is too
So
bad. But
you were saying their digital identity
yeah,
that they've
and
created.
yes, and I
Go
think
ahead.
that we need to think about it in terms of how that aligns with your own personal views of who you are. So there's this concept called authentic, authenticity, but it's an authentic personhood, and it just relates to how well do you own your own thoughts and feelings and experiences, and how do you view your own beliefs and ethics and morals, and like what's your own view of those things about yourself. And then if you're an authentic person, then your behaviors and your actions in public align with how you perceive yourself.
Okay.
If you're not as authentic, because it's a continuum. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
if you're far up the continuum, then those match. If you're not as far up the continuum, then now you have social pressures from the outside that can change your behavior. And it's like the animal herd morality type thought that you're going to do what others are saying. So if your social group is in a religious organization, and then let's say you're also in an investment, so the religious organization would have certain ethics and morals that they would expect, and so you are expected to have those. And then if you're in an investment group, like some friends and some others, and you're investing your money together, now all of a sudden they're saying, hey, let's invest in these certain things. And then now you're questioning, should we invest in that because of what it represents? And then you're in certain type, like, do you volunteer, and what organizations do you align with or do you support? All of those things are all of those are give you opportunities for authenticity to match, like in an investment group, to say, I don't want to invest in that because of this reason. Or you stand up for something, and or maybe you don't, and so you're not as authentic. Or if you're it creates a cognitive dissonance. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you start changing your beliefs about something. Well, everybody in this investment group thinks that it's great, it's okay to invest in these types of things, even though I was worried about this, but they said people still make choices, so maybe that's not so bad. So you can kind of change some of your own beliefs to match. But it's people who, and so an authentic person usually doesn't care as much what other people think about them, as long as they're believing and doing as in a way that matches their own, like, self representation. And
Mm-hmm.
people that are authentic, there's a correlation with mental and emotional health. So they don't have as many negative uh, issues in mental and emotional health, like depression, anxiety, stress. And if you're not as high on that authenticity scale, you're going to be more anxious and tend to be more depressed, and there's more stress that comes in. So, and it's not that being an authentic person is good or bad, because you could have some really bad ethical beliefs and moral beliefs, and then I'm an authentic
And
person,
be
so I'm going to
authentic to
and be
it.
authentic, and that
Correct.
wouldn't be good. So
Yep.
it's not about
Mm-mm.
being authentic isn't a good or bad judgment. It just means how well you align, how well your outward behavior aligns with your inward behavior. But now
Right.
you have a digital image. So now there's a third kind of part to this. It creates a triangle. How well does my digital image match up with my self-representation, and does it mirror my offline action behaviors in public? And so that brings up a new kind of way to look at it. So there's research going on, it has been for a little while now, but looking at these parts of a digital image. So it's not just that there's people that act inappropriately online on social media channels, like we were talking about. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
term for that, the disinhibition effect. But then there's other people that aren't making that choice, but they're being influenced and affected by that. And that's their digital image. And that's where now all of a sudden, if I'm reading a lot or seeing a lot, that is affecting even though I don't know, I don't see it happening, it's going to affect my mental and emotional health. It's going to affect my self-image just by, you know, taking this in. But it's not just that you read stuff or see stuff and it has an effect. I mean, it can, but that's not really the effect of the digital image. It's when you are online and you are attacked by, or you say something, or you're attacked by others. It's when your digital image is involved in it, is when there can be
Right.
effects from that.
But so again, I go online on the authenticity scale. I'm not at the far end, but I'm in the middle. Let's say there's some things I don't like about myself. I choose to ignore. I'm trying to think of an example, but let's just say I go on to a social media platform,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going in with a plan. I'm not going in saying I'm going to be this person online. I'm just, that's, but my digital image is kind of me, kind
Mm-hmm.
of. I'm not that authentic, but then here's what I wanted to get to is the idea of an echo chamber. Too, is that people who are saying things that I don't like or don't agree with, I block them, I get rid of them, and then at some point I'm left with people who think exactly like I do, only like I
Mm-hmm.
do, and now I'm only hearing and seeing things that support my beliefs and
Mm-hmm.
ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and but that's online, and then it gets worse and worse, right? Like I start worse, meaning I just uh, confirmation bias, whatever it is. I start building this. Now that can affect my digital image, right?
Mm-hmm.
Identity.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then you're saying, and I think I'm saying that then that can then affect the outside, your actual identity.
Yes. Yeah, it does. And there's been research to show this. And so let's approach it from this angle. Let's
Okay.
say that you are creating a digital image, and so now, like, you get to decide, even if you don't really think through this, deeply. It's just you're getting ready to pick an avatar, like in a game or something. You're getting ready to pick an avatar, and you can pick different ones. And so you're making picks without even really thinking it through that much. And if you stop to
Mm-hmm.
think through it, you might make some, but you're just, you're picking some different things, your avatar and all. And then you're going into this game, and you're playing the game. And then, you know, you start interacting with people in certain ways, and that can be positive or negative. It can go either way. It can be more authentic or less authentic than who you really are. And so I think that's where it becomes interesting. So some researchers were looked at college students who were creating their online presence, and this was in a survey. It wasn't so they took hundreds of students, and they surveyed them about their authentic self and about their actions and behaviors in public, and then about what they were doing online. So they kind of were looking at this triad. And if I was just thinking about it, thinking if students are going to create a persona online, it could really go one of two directions, right? It could be that they could create a digital identity to explore parts of their self and their character and beliefs and values and convictions, whatever, that's a mismatch with who they are, just to see what it feels like to be something different than what they are. Or
Okay. Okay.
or they can create a um, a more authentic version of themselves. So maybe their social groups or the people they hang out with aren't allowing them to really express themselves like they want to. So they feel more reserved, and my outward uh, self isn't really aligning with my inward self. So now this digital self lets them be more authentic. And so my first thought when I was thinking about the two choices, the I'm sure the authors of the articles laid out better options than that. That's just what came to my mind. Like, here's a couple of ways it
Mm-hmm.
could go. So my thought was it'd be the first one, that they would probably choose the route to just be something totally different than they were, because they never get to experience that and to do something different. But it was the opposite. The college students were more likely to become more authentic online, to try to align with themselves more because of social pressures not to express who they really felt they were. And so they did that
So what they're
online.
not allowed to do in real life because of their social group or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the reason is, they it's hyper online. It's like they get to be as authentic as they want to be online.
Yes, with anonymously.
Yes.
So now,
Yeah.
so it wasn't that they just went so far in the other direction. From what I remember about the study, it's just they
Hmm.
became who they really wanted to be, but were afraid to be in real life because of all the pressures, the outside pressures.
Right.
And
But
so,
again, you to go back, it's not good or bad because it could go bad that way.
yeah, it
When
could,
I'm
yeah.
hearing you describe this, it's like I want to be my authentic self, but I can't be for whatever reasons,
And it might be a
and then
good
I'm
reason why you
anonymously
can't.
going to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe that you just said it. Maybe there's a good reason why you can't do those
why
things.
you can't be
Maybe,
your authentic
maybe.
self. Um,
Yes, yes.
so, but regardless of whether it's good or bad, they found that this college students who said that now their digital identity aligned better with their self-representation were also had fewer mental and emotional health issues. And it
Mm,
didn't tie, and even if how they acted in public, whether it was close or far away from that, didn't affect the mental health results from it. So it
mm.
seemed to be that digital identity was really important. And so, you know, I think it was Cameron Bunker and his colleagues wrote the article recently. But anyway, it's this article I'm talking about. But it
Mm-hmm.
was, there's some fascinating findings that the social media and gaming platforms uh, give people an opportunity to create an avatar that aligns with how they perceive themselves, and people, their mental and emotional health can benefit from that, which I thought was
Hmm.
fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still trying to kind of reconcile why they can't be their authentic self otherwise, and I'm sure there are reasons. I'm just trying to. I'm trying
Yeah,
to.
so maybe it's expressing them there. Maybe it's a gender issue, like a gender
Mm,
identity that they have to hide from their authentic self, but online they don't have to. Or maybe it could
okay.
be
Yeah.
that you're maybe you're expected to be outgoing and kind and nice and bring people together, and that's something you fight all the time because you want to just kind of slink back in the shadows. But maybe you grew up in a family where that was kind of that responsibility was put on you at an early age. You were outgoing, and so that you're carrying that role forward now, and you're in college now, and you're just like, I'm tired of trying to perform all the time. And so you get a digital identity where you say, I'm not going to perform. I'm going to sit back and watch. I'm going to say a few things, but I'm just going to be more true to myself. But then when you leave the digital world, you go back home, you have to pick up this
Go
role
back
that you've
to
had. And so, I mean, it
yeah.
could be a lot of different things, but just, it's not always earth shattering as far as like moral issues that are, it can just be kind of what I prefer to do and who I prefer to be, uh, is matches up better. I can make that match up better online. But that gets to another. Some of the original work on this was in looking into the Proteus effect, which I think,
Proteus effect.
yeah, and I think Proteus was a Greek god.
Okay, because it sounds like a Greek tragedy. That sounds like the
Yeah,
title of a Greek tragedy. So
was
I
it?
feel better.
Okay, I think it was Greek. I can't remember. I should have looked that up.
Not
I think
Proteus. A Proteus effect.
the
You
Proteus
said.
effect. It's what researchers named
Okay.
this, the Proteus effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because Proteus could shift in and out of shapes and personalities, and I don't know, something like that. So it's just saying that you can shift and change your personality. This is the Proteus effect, but it
Mm-hmm.
means it relates to a person's behavior when it starts to conform to their digital identity. And this was one of the original studies that looked at this. So now I start to act like my avatar would act stereotypically. So I'm in a game and I pick an avatar that's extremely muscular. And let's say I'm a really small person that is kind of meek and quiet and shy. And I am 14 years old and have pimples and weigh 115 pounds. And I get picked on at school. But now I'm in this game and I picked this really muscular avatar with all these different weapons that when people do that, they start behaving in the game world as stereotypically their avatar would. So they become really aggressive and assertive. They start telling other people what to do. They start yelling at people. They just become this character because they're watching their character, who's this huge Hulk that everybody's kind of afraid of. And so they start
Mm-hmm.
acting that out. So that's the Proteus effect, where you start taking on the characteristics, and usually the stereotypical characteristics of your avatar.
But is there? I think I'm answering my own question in the question. But is there any part of the Proteus effect that is the reaction from other people that you're dealing with? So again, like I'm a meek, smaller individual. I pick an avatar that's this hulking, just yoked out dude with weapons, and but then I go into some game or some online world. I'm in a digital world, and I'm getting positive reactions from the people that I'm dealing with, and that helps to shape like. Do you see what?
Yes. Yeah,
I
that
guess that's a question, but
no, it is, because you're in your online world and how people respond to you in that world also affects you. But then
that's what I'm getting to. Yeah,
what they found was interesting is that carried over into the offline life.
right.
And so they did some research studies. This is where this isn't this is different from the survey I was talking about earlier. This is where they set up experiments and they have different conditions they put people in. And so this was in like the early 2000s, like 2006, 2007. So a while back, 15, 20 years ago. Um, they created two types of avatars. And so one avatar was based on attractiveness. So they had a really attractive avatar and a not very attractive avatar at all. And then the
Okay.
other was based on height. So they had a tall avatar and a short avatar. And they randomly assigned college students to these avatars. And then they had them play games, go into chat rooms where everything involved them seeing their avatar. They, after they had played for a certain amount of time, and I think it was multiple sessions, um, at one point they had them, the ones with the attractiveness avatar, they had them uh, go to a group. They said, we need you to meet with other students in this experiment for just a couple questions that's not really related to this. We just want to ask you some questions. So they would go in this room full of other college students, not full, but there'd be several other college students. What they didn't know, they were Confederates, meaning they were part of the research. So the person who
Mm-hmm.
walked in is actually the only participant, but they feel like there's a lot of them, of the participants in there. So they
Right.
would ask them questions about, to ask them to tell about themselves, tell some things about themselves. And they had some interpersonal distance tasks where they would come up, see how they would talk to people in groups, and the Confederate would see how close they can get before the person started backing away for interpersonal space and things like that. And they found that the students who had been assigned the attractive avatars were much more intimate with what they would share about themselves and what they would talk about, and they would get much closer before they would start feeling uncomfortable. They were more outgoing and approach oriented than those that were assigned the less attractive avatars when they came in. There was a stark difference between those two. And then those with the height difference from the tall avatars and the short avatars, they had them I believe it was a negotiating task. They had them negotiate something, and they found
Mm-hmm.
out that the students who had the tall avatar, you can guess, were much more
Yes.
confident
Much more.
and assertive than those with the shorter avatars. And so this is after they left their games and their chat rooms, and now they're interacting socially with real people, and their behavior has changed because of the avatars they were using.
That, I mean, it makes sense to me, but things like this just, well, now we're back to the brain
Mm-hmm. And to
and
priming.
how
Remember the studies
it's
on
like,
priming?
yes, on priming and again, how the brain it operates, but how it can be fooled, I guess. I don't, how the brain is your back channel's like, I'm super attractive because of that avatar. And, I just walk into a bar and try to pick up anybody. I know that wasn't the
Because,
research, but you know what
but no,
it
because
all works well until you ask the group that had the tall avatar to get something off the top shelf, and
yeah,
it just
and it all falls
falls
apart.
apart. But
So
but again, in all honesty, more confident. All of the stuff that goes with, and I think we've talked about in with tall people, tall males, get hired more often, get promoted more often.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
already this heuristic around it, and now that's being fed by this avatar.
yeah, absolutely. And that so then you know we're talking about the parts of it, or I should say that I'm thinking of kind of the negative sides of this, but is there a positive to this? Like what if you had somebody who was struggling with self-confidence, and you created an avatar that would help them be more confident? I know that some follow-up studies have looked at this effect where they had an avatar that looked pretty much like the person. You can make your own avatars now that kind of look like you, and
Hmm.
they had them doing different things, and they were, and I don't know exactly how they were doing it, but they had their digital image do more like exercising and things like that, and saying, hey, I got to stop and do some exercise. So you're controlling it most of the time, but then it would say, hey, let's exercise a little bit. So then you're watching your avatar exercise, and people that had that avatar were significantly more likely to continue exercising and get in shape outside, offline, just by being encouraged online.
Hmm.
And then
Right.
uh, the more researchers have found also that the more a person identifies with their avatar, the more likely they are to adopt the avatar's associated behaviors. So if you can get somebody that really identify, like if you can find out some of their core characteristics and then throw that into an avatar, but then add some really positive, healthy parts to it, they're more likely to try to match the positive, healthy sides because they identify with their avatar.
Right. Yeah.
So it can have some benefit, like everything, but
Yeah.
it
Like
takes
everything, there is a
effort to get,
benefit,
to get
but
to the benefit. It's easier to
right.
take it on the negative side, I think.
Yeah, it's way easier to create an algorithm that pushes forward, you know, just all of the stuff we've been talking about, and also letting, not letting, but you, the current owner of X, you know, a few months ago in January, they put up the numbers, how many, what do you call them, tweets now? I don't know, whatever. But the number of those that he was actually putting out was staggering. I
Mm.
don't know how a human being can do that, even if you don't have a job. But again, like the amount of content that's dominated by a small group of people is that's what I'm really
Mhm.
struggling with.
Yeah. Did he
Because
also
that they're
did he also create Grok?
yes,
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead.
yes, yes.
Okay.
I'll just say yes again. But again, that's one example. But there are other examples of more. Because why I'm taking a step back on that particular person is because we know who it is.
Hmm.
It usually, I mean, he changes his name all the time, but we know who he is.
Hmm.
But to back to our point, digital identity and all of that is there are people who we don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And
That are
who have the
providing the
anonymity and
content.
who are providing a large majority of the content that we are seeing, and it's negative content.
And they can create an official sounding name, like a news agency name, and have breaking
Mm-hmm.
news. Every 3 minutes there's breaking news, and it's them
Yeah.
telling something, and it's not fact checked. So a lot of times it's incorrect, like you were saying earlier. And then
It's not misinformation, it's disinformation a lot of
disinformation is
times.
purposefully.
Yeah. Purposefully done.
And then I saw a stat, I don't remember the number. I know it was above 60%, though, of Americans get their news on social media instead of
Mm-hmm.
television or the standard papers and all of that. So now you
How many
have,
times someone has said something to me and I say, oh, yeah, where'd you hear that? Oh, I saw it on Facebook.
yeah.
What did you just say to me? And you shared it? You shared it on Facebook? Sorry. Now, I'm telling you, I told you old man Sean was going to come out. Like, Grumpy, get off my lawn is here.
Good.
Like,
I
this
like
is
old man
driving
Sean
me,
sometimes.
driving me crazy.
Yeah, but that like you said, algorithms are what changes. So now if you're susceptible to your digital identity and this is back channel. That's why I wanted to make, I don't think I did a very good job earlier of saying that the online disinhibition effect, where you're
Mm-hmm.
spouting mean, crude, nasty things, is an on channel
Mm-hmm.
event. That's, you're
You're
deciding to do
making the
that.
decision
You're
to do
making a
that.
decision.
Yes.
Yes. And role playing.
Yeah.
You're making a decision to role play. Even if it's a good role.
Yeah.
It's not about whether it's good or bad. It's,
Right.
that
Yeah.
you're role playing. But now we're talking about with the digital identity, you don't know these things are happening to you. These are things that are happening in the back channel. And your back channel saying, oh, is this something we're going to be doing a lot, is acting this way? Because now you're online. And so now you're online gaming every day for what, 4 weeks? Isn't that kind of like a magic number? If
Yeah.
listeners want
4
to
weeks.
know, just listen to some of our past episodes. 4 weeks seems
Yeah.
to be a magic number to change behavior. So I've been playing this game for 4 weeks, and my brain's going, oh, are we going to be more assertive like this to people now? Okay. And now you meet somebody face to face and you're a little bit more assertive. And maybe if you've been more shy and bashful and you're more assertive to somebody in public and you get a positive response, then that just is going to make you more likely to be. So, those can be helpful things, but then there's also
Yeah.
the other side of it that we were talking about as well. But just to think how those uh, posts, tweets, games, the different things that come across forums like Reddit and chat rooms, all those things are affecting you in ways that you don't understand or know, and that you're not aware of, that you're being affected. And now you've got an algorithm controlling that to a large degree. There can be a kind of a scary side to this as well.
Yeah. And that's really, I think you just very succinctly put into what I was trying to get to in the beginning. It took you an hour to get me there, but that's really what I was trying to get to in Sean speak. But uh,
Well, I knew it, but I wanted to talk about other stuff too, so I waited
okay,
till the end, if
okay.
that's okay.
Because what I took out of this, the authenticity part, I found interesting because again, like everything, it's on a spectrum, it's on a scale, but there are people, I would say, that were in my life at one time or not, but that were not authentic in that they were doing things and saying things, but it's kind of head in the sand, right? Like, I'm not that person, even though they're doing these things. And then there's, on the flip side, like, and I'm sure there's people like this that you have encountered that the adage is what you see is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they are that person for better or for worse. That they're authentic.
Yeah.
Sometimes worse, but sometimes better. But like you said, I just made a mistake. You shouldn't label those as good or bad. It just is. They're authentic to a certain degree. We all are on that scale.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
Yeah, well, just one of the most like memorable. Memorable? That is not a word.
I don't
What's the
think that's a
word?
word.
No, but what am I trying to say? The
Memorable?
memorable. That's it. That's a really hard word, Sean. So
I know.
don't laugh at
It
me for
took,
not being
did you
able to
see
say
how long it took me
memorable.
to come up with it? Yeah,
Memorable. I was
memorable.
just cutting out a syllable. One of the most things that I remember the most was
Mm-hmm.
when I heard this person that I looked up to, and I'd heard them talk about things a lot, and I knew where they stood on certain issues because I'd heard them say where they stand over and over.
Mm-hmm.
I overheard them one time when they didn't know I was there talking to another person, and they were talking completely differently. I mean, saying the opposite. And it just like shook me because I was young, and it really
Yeah.
shook me. I was like, what in the world? And I just remember talking to my dad about it at the time. And he's going, yeah, some people, they talk one way to one group and a different way to a different group. And it's their way of always trying to fit in so that they're never on the out. They won't take a stand. It's like, that is terrible. I wouldn't want to be like that. But that's way down on the authentic scale. They're inauthentic because they're trying to match whatever group they're in. They're trying to match
Right.
that group. So
Right.
yeah. So now think about, and then if we're talking about digital identity and how much that affects you as a person and your self representation and how you act in public, what about adolescents that are growing up online? And
Mm-hmm.
they're always in gaming communities, always in chat rooms. And this is a time when their brain is still forming and they don't know who they are yet because they haven't really developed a full self. And now everything's just getting pulled and pushed and torn by all of the things going on online. It just, I don't know. It's something I hadn't really thought much about before. I know that social media and being online for children can be dangerous for kids.
Yeah.
But then what about adolescents, and what
Mm-hmm.
point do you make the choice? It's frightening. It's My kids are grown. I've got grandkids now that I'm worried about, but my
Me
kids are
too.
grown, thank goodness, because I don't want to be a parent to try to navigate these waters now. It was much easier when you had a TV and maybe a laptop you were trying to control versus phones and everything. Wherever they're at, they're always, and then now they're in gaming platforms and social media platforms, and they're videoing themselves doing things and without thinking of consequences and putting that online. And how do you monitor all of that? I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
So it'd be really tough.
Scary.
It
That's
is.
that's a little bit of not specifically, but a little bit of what sparked this conversation for me. Is I wanted to, as usual, I'm thinking about something and I'm waiting for our next podcast day so I can ask you about it. Uh, because it's about uh, what I'm talking about is how your brain works.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this before, but how these things can be leveraged or used. If you understand how the brain works, then these companies, these platforms, all of this can use this kind of against you. And my drive, what I want is for people then to combat that by understanding how their brain works.
Yeah,
And that's not to say don't go on social media or don't go online, but if you have just a little bit more understanding of how your brain operates, then this might help you with some of these issues that we're talking about. Maybe.
absolutely. And then, I mean, it's too bad that, understanding digital identity doesn't help people build safer and healthier platforms. I mean, it's too bad the people that
I
have the
know.
platforms don't say, well, now that we see some of this stuff, let's create a safer environment for everybody. Because that probably would
Yeah.
mean money. They would start losing money. People would, if you don't have the same dopamine hits, people aren't going to use your platform. They'll move to a different one. And yeah, but you're right. Just knowing about it is really the first step so that you can be aware of it and then be proactive.
Yeah. So, if that being my goal today, I would say that we achieved it.
Good.
Uh, so,
Good.
thank you for that. Um, and the Proteus Effect. I'm going to have to look that up, but that was a Greek god, by the way,
Okay,
Greek
Greek god.
But because I did kind of look at that just to make sure. But so much to take out of this episode: authenticity, the spectrum that it lies on, and we're all on it. Proteus Effect, digital identity, how that identity can affect you in the real world. Just really another great episode. So thank you very much.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. And so if you're still listening to this, if you're hanging with old man Sean complaining about technology, in all sincerity though, the goal of this podcast is to have John teach me about my brain. And if you're listening, hopefully you're picking up some things about how your brain works. Since we're all humans and we all have similar brains, this applies to all of us. So I just hope that you took something out of this episode, just like the other 25 or however many episodes we've done, 30. But and again, if you did enjoy the episode, take something out of it, subscribe, follow, help us out with those algorithms that we're talking about. Those so the evil algorithms, I'm just trying to kind of use them to our advantage. And then also algorithms aside, tell a friend, tell a family member, tell a coworker, anybody that that likes podcasts. Let them listen to the first couple episodes and see if they enjoy it as well. I'm still having fun. So for that, I say to John, thank you. To the audience, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
Amygdala whispers, fight or flee. Hippocampus sings in a minor key. Frontal lobe says, here's who you'll be. The brain's a concert, wild and free.